You hear about global problems all the time, right? Climate change, human rights, inequality. It's a lot, and it can feel pretty overwhelming. So today, we're going to break it down and ask a really important question. How can one person doing something in their own neighborhood actually help change the world?
You've definitely heard this phrase before. I mean, it's everywhere. But what does think globally, act locally really mean in the world we live in today? It's all about connecting the dots, seeing how these huge worldwide issues are linked to the real, tangible things you can do right where you live. Okay, so before we can act, we really have to get a grip on our role in all of this. So let's start with the absolute foundation. What in the world does it actually mean to be a global citizen?
At its heart, global citizenship is this idea that we're all part of one big, interconnected community. It's about sharing some basic goals like fairness, justice, and respect, and then taking responsibility for building a better world for everyone, not just for the people on our street or in our town.
Right. But to actually act on those shared values, you have to understand the different rules of the game that societies around the world play by. And that means we got to take a look at the world's political systems. So let's start with a really big contrast. On one side, you've got democracy, where the power, ideally, is with the people. You get to choose your leaders, and your rights are protected. But on the other side, you have totalitarianism. That's where the state controls pretty much every single aspect of life, and individual freedom, well, that's seen as a threat. The difference is just massive. It shapes everything from what you're allowed to say to how you're allowed to live. And, these political systems are almost always tangled up with the economy. Under capitalism, things are privately owned and competition drives profit. Socialism, on the other hand, says the state should own things to help regulate the economy and try to fix that imbalance between the rich and the poor. And believe me, it doesn't stop there. You've also got fascism, which is all about force and one-party rule. Then there's communism, which takes state control even further with collective ownership of everything. And of course, absolute monarchy, where your power is based simply on who your parents were. Each one of these systems gives a completely different answer to the question, who gets to be in charge? So when you look at all these massive, powerful systems, it is so easy to feel, well, powerless, right? But here's the thing. Change doesn't only come from the top. Let's look at the real agents of global change, the ones that start from the ground up.
The most powerful kind of change often starts really, really small. Grassroots advocacy is exactly what it sounds like. It grows right from the ground up. It's what happens when regular, everyday people see something that's wrong and decide to come together to demand change.
And the power of these movements is just undeniable. Think about it. In 2003, it was a student filmmaker creating a group called Invisible Children to Help Child Soldiers. In 2011, it was the young people across the Middle East demanding democracy in the Arab Spring. It was the Idle No More movement fighting to protect indigenous rights in Canada. And it was hundreds of thousands of people protesting government spying. In every single case, the change started with ordinary people. But of course, change also happens from the top down. Let's rewind a bit. After the absolute devastation of World War II, a totally new idea took hold. 50 countries came together and they were determined to make sure a disaster like that could never, ever happen again. And with that shared goal of global peace, they formed the United Nations. So how does an organization like the UN actually get things done? Well, they have a couple of key tools in their toolbox. A convention is a big deal. It's a legally binding treaty that countries sign onto and have to follow. A declaration, on the other hand, isn't legally binding, but it carries this immense moral weight because so many countries have agreed to it. It's a really important difference between legal force and moral pressure. And then you've got this other crucial piece of the puzzle, NGOs, or non-governmental organizations. Think of groups like Amnesty International, UNICEF, or the Rainforest Action Network. They operate completely separately from any government. They're like the watchdogs and the support systems, holding big institutions accountable and getting help where it's needed the most. Okay, so we've looked at the big systems, the powerful movements, and the giant organizations. But now, let's bring it all home. What does all of this mean for you? This is where everything comes together on a personal level. Just take a second and really listen to these incredible words from Eva Olsen, who survived the Holocaust. For half a century, she was silent, but then she realized something profound. Silence doesn't heal. Her voice could be a force for change.
It's just a stunning example of the impact one person can have when they choose to speak up.
And look, the stakes here are just incredibly high. Just look at this data. The kind of government a country has, its economic system, these things directly impact people's quality of life, from how much money they make to how long they can even expect to live. These aren't just abstract ideas in a textbook. They have real life or death consequences.
So, yeah, when you see all of this, these massive global challenges, it's totally normal to feel overwhelmed. But it is so important to remember this one simple truth. The very first step to changing anything is believing that you can. That belief, it's the spark that lights everything else on fire.
And here's the best part. You don't need a boatload of money to make a real difference. It can start as simply as building a network online or partnering with a local business for a fundraiser. You could start a conversation by writing for your school paper, organizing a small, peaceful demonstration, or even just writing a single, powerful letter. These are not small things. They are real, concrete actions that anyone can take right now. I mean, just think about someone like Rosa Parks. Her fight was personal. She said she wanted to be remembered as someone who wanted to be free. But that one act, that one person's desire for her own freedom, became this incredible catalyst for the freedom of millions. It's the perfect reminder that our own actions can have a ripple effect we can't even begin to imagine. And so that brings us right back to where we started. We've seen the global systems, we've seen the powerful players, and we've seen the undeniable impact of just a single voice. So the only question left is the one for you. What local action will you take for a global issue?